I labeled my talk, I titled this, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness, which are famous words of Thomas Jefferson, for those of you not familiar. And if you're not familiar, you should become familiar. But I would like to give you what I consider a Jewish interpretation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because really, it corresponds to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because in Rosh Hashanah, l'chora, we pursue life. We seek life. We ask Kadosh Baruch Hu to give us life. And I'd like to go into that for a moment, because we can distinguish between a simple life, just being alive, and in this world there can be, shall we say, a good life, life of blessing and prosperity, and then there could be a life with, God forbid, sorrows and troubles. And then we can speak about what we'll use for simple terminology, a spiritual life. So the Rishonim actually all argue about exactly what's going on Rosh Hashanah. In order to understand it, I'm going to start out with the Gemara in Kedushin, because it'll make it much easier for us to understand what's going on in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says that Amar Rav Yehuda, Kol ose mitzvah achas, Yasser al Zuchiyosav. If a person does one mitzvah more than his merits, Meitivin lo v'doma k'misha mekayim kol haTorah kula. You do good for him. Then there's another, it says elsewhere, Kol Zuchiyosav meruba me'avonosav, somebody whose merits are greater than his averis, marin lo, you do bad for him. But doma lo k'misha saraf kol haTorah kula. It's as if he burned the entire Torah, and is not left afila osachas. And someone whose sins are greater than his schuyos, someone whose sins are greater than his merits, meitivin lo, you do well for him. But doma k'misha mekayim kol haTorah kula. It's as if he fulfilled the entire Torah. Lo chise osachas mimeno. So difficult to understand, but we have to understand that there is schar in olam hazeh, and there's schar in olam haba. And the Gemara is telling us that tzaddikim will get paid off in this world for their bad deeds, and rishoyim will get paid off for their good deeds in this world. So, if you have somebody who's a tzaddik, and therefore Kadosh Baruch Hu will give him a lot of his punishment in this world, and reserve his reward for the world to come. And vice versa, a person who's a Russian will be paid off for his ma'asim tovim in this world, and he will have only punishment in the world to come. The Gemara compares it to a tree that's planted completely in Kedusha, but a little bit of it hanging over in Tumah, so then we cut off the branches of Tumah and we're left with total Tahara, and vice versa, something which is planted in Tumah, with a little bit of its branches going into Tahara, into purity, we cut off the branches and we're left with something which is purely Tameh. If you understand this concept, that there's schar in this world and there's schar in the next world, we can begin to start to understand the machlekes rishonim in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. Famous piece of Gemara. The Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Kors Badoi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Shlosh Sfarim Niftachim b'Rosh Hashanah, Echad Rishonim Gemorim, Echad Tzadikim Gemorim, one of Rishonim Gemorim, one of Tzadikim Gemorim, Echad Beinanim. Tzadikim Gemorim Nektavim La'alta L'chaim, Rishonim Gemorim Nektavim La'alta L'misa, Beinanim Tluyim Va'omdim Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, Zachu, if they Zaycha Nektavim L'chaim, Lo Zacha Zacha L'misa. So it says that there's three books which we're all familiar with. There's Tzadikim, the Rishonim, and the Beinanim. tzaddikim are written immediately for life, Rishonim are written immediately for death, and the Beinanim are Tuliyim Va'omdim, and they're written on Rosh Hashanah. Excuse me, on Yom Kippur. There are a lot of issues with this Gemara, but the one I'd like to discuss with you right now, because we're discussing life, we know that my friend Mr. Jefferson, he understood life to mean simple life. But here, there's something else going on, because the Rishonim will ask, how can you say that tzaddikim are written for life? We see that tzaddikim die. And how can you say all Rishonim are written for death? We see that Rishonim live and they prosper. It's an obvious question. And all the Rishonim are bothered by this question. So, I'll go with the Ramban. The Ramban, Nachman Haredi, says as follows. When it says here, Chaim and Misa, life and death, it means in the din. It's discussing what's the din of this individual. Is his din to do well in this world this year? Is his din to do not so well this year? Life means life, literally all life, he says, and anything which is good, positive, and death means any death, literal death, or anything which is negative. But enochanami, we're discussing the din and how is Hashem going to give a person, what is he going to get in this world? And now what's that dependent on? Like we just said before. HaKadosh Baruch has a very complicated cheshbon. He has a very complicated way of understanding what is a person. Some things he gets rewarded for in this world, and some things he gets rewarded for in the next world. Some things we get punished for in this world, some things we get punished for in the next world. Some people get punished in this world and rewarded in the next. Some people get rewarded in this world and get punished in the next. Depending on whether a person is a tzaddik or a rasha, that will be his din. So when it says here, tzaddikim are written for life, it doesn't mean that the person is a tzaddik. It means his din is that of a tzaddik. It means he's going to have good things. But that doesn't mean overall that he's a tzaddik l'olam haba. Doesn't mean he's a righteous person in the world to come, and vice versa. That's how the Ramban takes it. But Tosfos doesn't say like that. Tosfos says here that when it's written here that they're written for life and for death, it means, says Tosfos, it's talking about the world to come. Tosfos learns that when it says here we're written for life and for death, we're talking about the din la'olam haba. Because he's bothered by this question, because he can't say it's the din la'olam hazeh, tzaddikim die and Rishonim live. But it's a problem. What is Tosfos telling us? We're written in olam haba. Why does the Kodesh Baruch have to judge us for olam haba? Every year has to judge us for olam haba. What's the purpose? Why is he judging us every year for olam haba? What does that mean? So they resolve this. The Siftei Chaim brings down the words of the Ramchal. It's essentially like this. The first thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, according to Tosfos, Hashem has to judge on an individual is, what is he? What's his din? Is he a tzaddik? Is he a rasha? Meaning, is he in terms of olam haba? What is he? What's his essence? What does he deserve in this world? Is he deserve the mahalach, the process of a tzaddik? Does he deserve the process of a rasha? And that's taka din olam haba. How does Hashem look at the essence of this individual? The second step, then, okay, now that we've decided what he is, we're going to give him his appropriate punishment, or how to deal with him. So that'll be his din in olam hazeh. In olam hazeh, now, based on what we judge for olam haba, we will now decide what to give him in olam hazeh. So it comes out that according to Tosfos, they all, in principle, everyone's agreeing over here. There's a judgment for olam haba and there's a judgment for olam hazeh. They go together. Depending on whether we're a tzaddik or a rasha, then we will get the appropriate judgment in this world and the next. So what does it mean, life? When we daven for life, so it's interesting. The Vilna Gaon says that we ask for life, we ask for Zachrenu l'chaim, when we say Zacheinu L'chaim in the first three brachas of the Shemona Esrei during the Seres Yemei Tshuva, that means Chaim La'olam Haba. In the last three brachas, when we say Chaim Tovim, we mean Olam Hazeh. We want both. Obviously, we want to be tzaddikim. We want to be tzaddikim, HaKadosh Baruch. We want to be among those who are considered tzaddikim, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu will deal with us as such. But in Achanami, we want to be a tzaddikim, but just like it says, if you're a tzaddik, if we do them Torah, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give us the means to fulfill it even better. So just because we're tzaddikim doesn't mean necessarily we have to get, God forbid, bad things in this world. Maybe Hashem will give us good and enable us to do even greater things. So we're davening to be considered tzaddikim in the world to come, and then we also davening that God willing we should have a din that we can live with and we can prosper in this world. So, that being said, so what does it mean life? Life means good life in this world, which is based on whether we're shaykh to the real life, the Olam HaNitzchi and Olam Haba. Now, that being, if we understand that, we can understand simple pshat. We say, Becharta b'chayim. The Torah says, you shall choose life. You cannot choose physical life. In the world we live in, unfortunately, there are people that think they can choose death. They have a thing called assisted suicide in Oregon and other states. Rahman al-Tzlan. People who have lost the sense that life is God-given, and life is to be cherished, and life is holy and sacred, and there's what to do with our lives. You know, they have, please forgive me, but they have this thing called the bucket list. The bucket list is what your 10 things you want to do, you know, while you're alive. You know, so this woman, unfortunately, she was one of these people with assisted suicide. What's her bucket list? She has to go to the Grand Canyon. However, that's not what life is all about. Going to the Grand Canyon is just not what we're talking about. That might be something you do, but that's not the goal. That's not the goal. In this room and in this world that we're in, on Hoshana Rabbah, that's just not the goal. That's called Chai Olam. That's Chai. That's physical life without any purpose, and that's the pshat. Mi shachavetz chayim, oiv yomim liros tov, yitzur shon chameira, usvasech medaber miyama, sur meira v'asei tov, b'achei shom adfeyu. Who's the man who wants life, wants to live, and loves to see in his days to see good? He should guard his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking treachery. Go away from evil, do well, and seek peace. A person has to choose to walk in the way of the Torah. A person that chooses to go in the way of the Torah, that's seeking life. When it says B'charta b'chayim, you can choose to go in the way of the Torah. That's a simple pshat. When we say we want life, we want to live a life that leads to the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, because that is ultimately what the purpose of life is and why we were put here. So that's the simple meaning of life. Life means to do the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be in this world and to fulfill His Ratzon. Then we are Zoche to life, a life in this world which is attached to a life in the next world. As it says, Avraham Avinu ba b'yamim, Avraham Avinu came with his days. Yeah, with Chukachinsky once asked Akasha. He went up in front of a group of medical men. He says, I know a disease that there's no cure. They said, well, what are you talking about? He says, life. It's true. If we think about simple life, it's a long goses. It's one long period of death. It's 120 years from the cradle to the grave. So it's just one period of, if you look at physical life, it's one long goses. But if you look at spiritual life, Baba Yamim, that you can take every moment, and with B'charta b'chayim, by choosing to go in the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we can take that physical life, which is very temporal and really of no meaning, and convert it to nitzchias. Avraham Avinu, Baba Yamim, he has them forever. Everything positive that a person does in this world, he carries forever. Forever. For netzach. So enochanami, simple life is meaning, doesn't have any meaning, and it's ending. But eternal life, if a person is davening for the life of the servant Rabbanu Shalom, he has it l'netzach. I just think that we have to point out at this point that there's even a deeper meaning to when we say that going the way of the Torah is leads us to life. So in simple terms, it means, performing the mitzvahs and doing the Ratzon of Hashem. But let us remember the words of Chazal. Eitz Chayim Ilama Chazikim Ba. It's the Eitz HaChayim. What's the Eitz HaChayim? The Torah itself. Chazal tell us, when a person learns Torah, if he stops learning Torah, it's like a fish out of water. If a person would understand that they would bring down from the Ruach HaChayim here, if a person would understand that if he would see he was drowning in the ocean, and he saw a bar or something he could grab onto, that was his whole life. That was his Eitz Chayim Him Lamachin Zikin. By holding on to the Torah, that's our life. Says the Kachi HaTorah Kadosh Nikras Eitz Chayim Ilona the Chai, it's the tree of life. Shirak Osa Eitz Sha'adam Achos B'Ba'avaso. If a person holds on to the Torah and with love, Va'oisik Mahageh Ba B'Kvius, and he involves himself in it. Azu Chaya Chaim Amitim Elyonim. If a person is learning Torah, then he's living the true life. Kosher v'dovet kavayachol b'chai olam yizbarach shemo. In other words, it's not just a question of doing Torah mitzvahs. To the extent that we learn Torah and have a shaykhus to Torah itself, we are dovet with chai olam yizbarach shemo. The kudsha brichu v'arai sachad, because God and His Torah are one. So to the extent that one has a shaykhus, has a relationship to the Torah Kedosha, you have true life. If a person puts away his learning, and he doesn't learn b'kviyas every day like he's meant to, just to be involved with this world and everything that it has within it, then he's cutting himself off from the Chaim Elyonim. So when we talk about the Torah being it's the Eitz Chaim. When in the Gan Eden, the Eitz HaChayim was the Torah Kedosha. That was the Torah Kedosha. Learning Torah, understanding Torah, having Torah as the center of our lives. It's not just a question of, doing a mitzvah. About doing a mitzvah is what it's all about. But ultimately, learning Torah, we are attached to Kodesh Baruch Hu Mamash right now. We have Chai Olam right now. That's the Eitz HaChayim, as opposed to the Eitz HaDas. The Eitz HaDas Tov V'Ra, which is Chachmas Chitzonius, says the Seder Meforshim. Chachmas Chitzonius means being involved in Chachma, which is divorced from Torah, understanding the world al pi teva. That is the Eitz HaDas Tov V'Ra. But the Eitz HaChayim is the Torah Kedosha. The one who learns Torah, that he's attached to Kodesh Baruch Hu right here in this world. It's not just in the next world. It's even in this world. We compare Klal Yisrael is compared to Dagim in the Yam. You take him out of the Yam, and Talmud for a moment, and they'll die. That's Torah with Rabbi Akiva. Torah is our life, even in this field. So there's a deeper element. When we speak about life, we can talk about simple physical life. For sure we want to have physical life, but physical life has to have a purpose. So the purpose is to be a servant of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, but it's even deeper. Physical life, to the extent that it's a life based in Torah and mitzvahs, that's a life which is oisik in Torah and mitzvahs, that is right now holding on to Rabbanu Shalom, which is the source of life. Ein chodesh tachas hashemesh, l'mala min hashemesh eish chodesh. There's nothing new under the sun, but l'mala min hashemesh there's something new. Chodesh, something new. What is life? Life is the ability for something to be renewed. Something which is domain, a rock, a stone, a table. What's there now determines what's going to be there the next moment. Right? If you know a little bit of physics, you know a little chemistry, biology, you can figure out, well, this is what's there now, based on all the forces that are going to act on it, what's going to be here the next moment. Life is not like that. Life is chidush. Life is chidush. Something which is new. something which is new, something which you cannot expect. Our cells reproduce. They're always new. Our life is constantly in a form of renewal. Ein chodesh tachas hashemesh. There's nothing new under the sun. Lamala min hashemesh, but above the shemesh is something new. The Torah is above the shemesh. Mitzvahs are above the shemesh. To the extent we have our life which is shy to above the shemesh, then we have true life. But if we don't, we have Rishoyim b'chayim, Nikrayim Mason. Rishoyim in their lifetime are called dead. So you can learn, it means that they're leading to death. Or the pshat is that they're cut off. There's no relationship to reality, to the reality. They're that goses. That's the 120 years of just physical life. Physical life without any relationship to eternal life. We want to have a relationship to Chiddush. And by the way, parenthetically, that's why we're so attracted to the news. Yeah? When I was a kid, it was used to, you had to go out and buy the paper. It cost 10 cents, and you had to read the headlines, and that was that. Today, we have news addicts. It's a new concept. It's called the news addict. He's got what's up, what's down, what's is backwards, and I don't even know all the names. He's going to get beepers on his thing, every time something happens of semi-importance to somebody, somewhere, somehow, something. So-and-so blew his nose. Yeshikoyach. Okay, Gavaldik. That's really something. Do I exaggerate? A little bit. A little bit. They probably wouldn't have that on unless he sneezed 5 times, which is unusual. So then, what's up? What's up? What's news? What's the nias? Well, everybody is tied into the nias, the news. Because we want life. We want life, we want news, we want something that's new, it's exciting. But the real excitement is within us to the extent that we're learning our Torah and we're keeping our mitzvahs. That's real life. Without that, we're not shy to real life. Now that brings us to the second point. The second point is that we say there's life, liberty. Now, liberty is an interesting concept. I remember when one time I was in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is one of these great cities, you can fall asleep when you're there. But kids, I was there, and it's a beautiful place. Anyhow, I was there, and I had an hour between appointments, and I was right there by Independence Park. If anybody's ever been there. So I said, why not, So I went in, and I went to see where they signed the Declaration of Independence or something like this. And then there's a hall where they have Liberty Bell. So, it's like you got a picture. You go into the hall, and you're walking. And it's like this long hall, And there's guard there and everything. And you're walking, getting close. And the bell's over there, and you're walking up, getting closer, closer, closer. You finally get there, and what is it? Crack bell with a pasuk from the Chumash. B'karasa dura b'chalaretz. And you called out liberty throughout the land. I said, I got a Chumash. I don't have to come over here to read one pasuk in Chumash. You know what I mean? It's a pasuk from our Bible, the Bible. It's from our Bible, We call that liberty throughout the land. But kids said that's the concept of liberty, which Mr. Jefferson meant. President Jefferson. He meant what? Liberty. You can do what you want, and that's what the word draw means. Draw means you can live where you want. From Lashon Dira, the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah. So he was right. That is a form of liberty. There's no question about it. To be able to do what you want in this world, it's a form of liberty. We don't deny that. But there's a higher form of liberty. And it's really related to what we just said. Because it says, Chazal tells us as follows, V'uma sha'amu charus al luchos, al tikra charus elecherus. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, don't say charus engraved on the tablets, but rather cherus means freedom. Amo, that's to teach you, she'ein lecha ben chorin, there's nobody who's really free, elamisha oiseh b'talmud Torah. Now, it's interesting. I was looking at the Meforshim. What does it mean? There's nobody that's free unless he's oisek in Talmud Torah. So I was going to tell you what I'm going to read in a moment, but I saw some people want to learn it means freedom from the government, as it says, That if a person, if you're mekabeling yourself all malchus shamayim, then you're free from all malchus. You don't have the government bothering you, etc. You're free from taxes. So all sorts of things that a person could, we might consider, simple freedom. But yet it says over here, "V'hu cheres misitra the yetzer hara." What is the cheres? What is the freedom that we're talking about? When we say we want to be free from the yetzer hara. We want to be free from the inclination within us which drives us the wrong direction. V'chayalin l'day. Shekamosha samahu rosh l'kos mishari mishaltim l'sitra acher. These are the ones that bother the Jewish people. Remember, they're external enemies of the Jewish people and they're internal ones. We are afflicted by the nations of the world. They bother us. They do things with us. Similarly, we are afflicted by the yetzer hara and the taiva, the desires within a man, which bring us to all sins. The yetzer hara. These are the legions of the yetzer hara. And that's, he explains, and that's the taiva, nefesh taivani bekaisani, esav yishmael. We know that there are two pillars of the yetzer hara. There are two forces. There's taivani. Taiva means desire. Kasani means anger. Yishmael corresponds to taivani because it says by Avraham Avinu, and Avraham Avinu went to the Akedah with Yitzchak. He said to Eliezer and to Yishmael, "You stay here with the chamor. You stay here with the chamor." And Chazal say, "Am adoma lechamor," a nation which is similar to a donkey. A donkey is a symbol of taiva, desire. And by Esav, it says, "Bachar b'chatichya," you shall live by the sword. You shall live by the sword was the blessing when Yitzchak Avinu couldn't bless Esav with the blessings they had given to Yaakov. So he said, "Bachar b'chatichya." Ramban says you'll win wars, but I've heard it explained, "Bachar you shall live. Bachar b'chatichya, you'll have hana from war." My mashal for that is, one time I traveled home during the first Gulf War. It was the second Gulf War. The second Gulf War. I had to make a trip, and I found myself in New York, Times Square. For those of you who haven't been there, don't go. Okay, but anyhow, I'm in Times Square, and they had this huge screen. And I got a picture. For those of you who are familiar, Times Square has got Camel cigarettes and all sorts of other advertisements like flashing lights and all sorts of things, right? So you got a picture. They're advertising cigarettes, they're advertising plays, they're advertising restaurants. And in the middle of all this, you got this huge screen with the war, with this live bombing of Baghdad. Now you gotta say, you're looking over here, you got a picture of Joe Camel. I mean, that's not so really significant, and it really doesn't make too much of a difference. And he's just a fantasy, and the whole thing is just advertising. And then, you have this restaurant, which at the end of the day is just some food, whether it's good or not, and then there's a play, which is just, bilu, they call it, entertainment. Okay. That's not our thing, but that's what it is. In the middle of all this, you got people being bombed live, a huge screen. That's b'char b'chatichya. You shall live by the sword. Wait, this is not a joke. This is not a restaurant over here. The people being killed. Okay, they're the enemy. It's true, they're the enemy. Maybe, I'm not going to whether they deserve it or not, but it's not something to be put out next to an advertisement for a pair of jeans. And then I go into my car. I do not exaggerate. I quote. I go into the car and I turn on the radio. For those who come from New York, you get 10 wins. We'll give you 21 minutes. We'll give you the world, that kind of thing. So they got it on. So then it sounds like Custer's Last Stand. Dun, 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 dun. I do not exaggerate. With this heavy duty, no. The war in Iraq, right? I mean, I'm ready for Custer, okay? The war in Iraq, okay? Then the guy gets on, he's interviewing in general. And he says, you did 1,000 sorties and this, that, and the other thing. Wow, it's something really special. Unbelievable. He says, he said back to me, he said it was like a symphony. Excuse me, but it was like a symphony. He's describing killing thousands of people as a symphony, coordinating this war effort. That's Bechar B'chatichya. You shall live by the sword. So these two kaiches, they're external kaiches. They're represented by the nations of Yishmael and the nations of Edom, which we don't need to go at any length to know how they afflict us and bother us and do all sorts of, have been troubling us for the last 2,000 years. Since the destruction of the temple, we're running in gullus. But it's also internal kaiches. These are the kaiches of taiva and the kaiches of kas, desire and anger. These are the two pillars of the Yetzer Hara, the 70 nations, just for your information. The Vilna Gaon explains, when we speak about Shivin Umos, there's 70 nations, you get your finger out and you count, you'll see, after Migdal Bavel, right before Migdal Bavel, there's a count in the Torah, you can count them up, 70 nations. Yishmael and Esav were not existent at that moment. They are Russian, which are outside of the 70. Okay, you have 70 nations, but these two poles are not included in the number 70. They're two leaders, heads of all the kaiches in Umos Ha'olam. So what is being explained over here is that we have external enemies and we have internal enemies. And who's the one who's really free? The only one who's free is the one, a person who's Isaac in Talmud Torah, a person who learns Torah, then he has true freedom, true control. He's in charge of himself. He's not always following his taivas or being prompted to anger, which is not easy. Now, if you understand that, I think we can understand a very interesting thing. I said, we have life, liberty. Yom Kippurim is liberty. What happens on Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur, we're like Malchei Asharis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgives us. Says the Siach Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak Zechava says explicitly, Avada, the Kayach of Yom Kippur comes from a Kayach, he says, from Achris Yomim, the ability to be Machaper on us all. But it's also what happened on Yom Kippur. It's the day that we receive the second Luchos. The whole process of Yom Kippur, our ability to do tshuva, and for our tshuva to be accepted, was that the Torah was given for a second time. People forget this. Yom Kippur was a day of Matan Torah. And Memela, that's the Kayach of Torah. The Kayach of Torah lies the ability to ultimately control and overcome and be free from the Yetzer Hara. By the way, parenthetically, that's the pshat why many of the times when we do tshuva on Yom Kippurim, we can't hold it. It's interesting, many people are plagued by Yom and the issues of tshuva, and especially Yom Kippur, because on Yom Kippur they really felt that they had a desire to overcome an avera, and then subsequently when they're confronted with it, they may fall. But there's a very simple reason for that, which is a bit of an issue actually. On Yom Kippur, you don't have a Yetzer Hara. Yom Kippur, the Malach HaMavos is not there. So we are really dealing with our Yetzer Tov. When the rest of the year we have to confront the normal Nisyonos. And Mamela, it doesn't always work properly. In that vein, by the way, the Madregas HaAdam explains a very interesting point. He explains the difference between Esav and Yaakov. That the difference between Esav and Yaakov, when Esav came back and he saw he was hungry and he saw this Hadam, he saw the soup which was red. And the Chazal and the pasuk says it was red, and he wanted to eat it, and he sold his bechor. He sold his rights to the firstborn. He sold it for a bowl of soup, which is very difficult for us to understand. Because Esav, he may be a Russian, but he's not stupid. And what is this? Sachar calls a bowl of soup, right? So it's difficult to picture. Some say, by the way, that he got paid money later on. This was just a kinyan. But the simple pshat in the Chumash is that he sold it. So, you can say, he was taken in, he was famished, he was very hungry. But whatever it was, for him it was a nisayon. It must have been a very big nisayon for him because he was extremely hungry, and therefore he did what he did. So he said the reason why Esav fell is because he was missing the very basic element of what avodah is all about. And this is really how, for us, we can be ready for the big nisayon. There's little nisyonos in life and the big nisayon. So the Madregas Adam explains that a person, if he takes ständig all the time, he's trying to conquer the little steps in his life, the little things, the things which are not major tests for him. And he's, on a daily basis, there's a bit of a conflict, and he says, I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what the Torah says. I'm going to keep the halacha. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to fall in on small things. Small things. So then if he gets in that habit, he says, so Mela, when the big nisayon comes, the things which really bother us, the things which put us into a tremendous sense of conflict, then we will have already built within ourselves the spiritual habit and energy that give us the ability to overcome. This is the way that we shouldn't be like an Esav and sees the bowl of soup and he just, he loses himself. And we know that, unfortunately, there are times that people lose themselves. Everyone has his weak spot. So how do you prepare for that? Yom Kippurim, we're all there. There's nobody who's not Mahara Tshuva on Yom Kippurim. Everyone's Mahara Tshuva on Yom Kippurim. Everybody wants to come close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah, when we face our nisyonos, it's difficult. Torah says you have to get into a mode of avoda. Al Kapanim, what we said before is that a person learns Torah Eitz HaChaim, and Memela, that's the second one. Since he's learning Torah, he's got life. He's also, in ultimate terms, he's freed from the Eitz HaHara. Somebody who's really also in Torah Tamid. It says the Malach HaMavas could not touch David HaMelech until it distracted him. Remember, the little bird came and he was distracted, and then the Malach HaMavas was able to get him. When he was Isaac in Torah, couldn't touch him. So, that's the second form of real freedom. Avada, there's such a thing as freedom. We're not saying that there's not such a thing. It's not a mila to be able to do what you want, to go where you want, to live the type of life you want, which is what President Jefferson meant. But there's much more to it. Freedom means the ability to control and ultimately to guide ourselves in the direction that we really want to go to, and not the way our goof and the Sitra Acher and our Yetzer Hara pulls us, which is ultimately not for our benefit. So that's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness is quite obviously now is the next step, which is Sukkos. So in Sukkos we can define, now what type of happiness are we talking about? I think that if we want to talk about the happiness which we're not talking about, and which he may have been referring to, is the happiness of the ksil, the schok of the ksil. My mashal for that is, I have two that I like to talk about. One is they're going to have the presidential elections in a few weeks, and whoever wins, they're going to have a big party. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to put down 1,000 balloons. Now, you understand, these are supposed to be grown people. And they're going to be the president of the United States, and and they're making like a gan over here, gan yaladim. I don't know why that somehow represents simcha. Now, you can call, on par with that is New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, right, everyone gets together, and we're going to have a really good time. Okay, there's this big ball. Okay, now let's go. 10, 9, 8, finally goes down, whoopee. Like nothing happened, nothing changed. It's just meaningless. There's 500,000 people just screaming, and that's the schok of the ksil. That's the schok of the ksil. The ultimate schok of the ksil, by the way, is the crazy house. What's the pshat? If a person walks around with a smile on his face all day long, you know what we call him? Nuts. We put him away. They laugh all day long. You ever see such a person? It's horrible, right? A person walks around laughing. That means something's really wrong. You know what the pshat is? The pshat's like this. The schok of the ksil, he's such a fool, he's always laughing. There's no meaning in his life. Nothing has meaning. When nothing has meaning, then God forbid a person is crazy. There's a time for laughter. But if a person's always laughing, that means nothing has any meaning. He's disconnected with reality. We have special places for such people. Then our mouths will be filled with schok. The Rabbanan had to dance. They were dancing at a wedding. And what happened? They broke one of the Amorim broke a glass, a white glass, which represents the base of Mikdash. Stop, you're going too far. Then our mouths will be filled with schok. When? Then, that says the Rebbeinu Yonah Achris Yamin. What does that mean? When I give you the pshatz like this. Sarah Meinu had lost the ability to have children. Avraham Avinu was an older man, right? They were not having older children. All of a sudden, they give birth to Yitzchak. So what does it say? It says Avimelech, and says Rashi, Kol Leit Sani Ador. That's the lashon. Kol Leit Sani Ador didn't believe it. So what happened? Sarah had to nurse all the children to show that she was really capable of being a mother. Plus, Yitzchak Avinu's face looked just like Avram, to prove that it came from Avram. But they called Leitzane Ador. Why was Leitzanes? Pshat is, what? He's giving birth. She's giving birth. It's not shaykh. It's not impossible. Imagine, Nevei Simcha. There's the Nevei Simcha, is the old age home. Nevei Simcha, they're having a Shalom Zocher. He's not laughing. What are you talking rubbish? Two granny and grandpa come out, come on. It's a schok. It's a joke. It's stimpnish. It's not true. So they're making fun. They're laughing. What's going to happen in the end of days? You know what's going to happen? Just like when the Twin Tower comes down, not justifying it, but to understand the godless of America, the greatness of America, everything it stands for. These high towers come tumbling down in 20 minutes. They weren't meant to even come down at all, ever. They're supposed to be as hard to be able to sustain any kind of impact. 20 minutes, it was gone. Gone. In 1987, Gorbachev, Glasnost, all of a sudden they knocked down all the statues of Lenin. Gone. Just gone. I don't know if you recall, those who were old enough, it was just like one day they got up and said, okay, and they started chopping down all the statues. They did away with it. No more KGB, call it a different name. That's the pshat. That's a mashal. One day we're going to wake up and our mouths are going to be filled with true laughter because we're going to see that the real reality is ours, and that was a joke. That was just a smokescreen. They think we're the laughing stock. Avimelech's laughing at Avram because he thinks his reality, and how can a woman who's a 90-year-old woman have children after she's been incapable her whole life? No. There'll be time when we're going to be filled with laughter. Because the true meaning will be revealed and they will be seen to be a smokescreen, and people will be asking themselves, how did we ever believe in all of that? But the truth is like this. The simcha that we're looking for we want the simcha of Sukkot. Zman simcha seinu. We have to understand that this is a very serious topic. Because it says in the Klolos, the reason for the second group of Klolos, the main psukim is because you didn't serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu b'simcha, with all the good and a good heart from all that you were given. If we don't serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu with simcha, it's not just a question of Sukkot, which is a mitzvah aseh, which the Vilna Gaon says one of the most difficult ones to fulfill, to have simcha the whole 7 days. Really 8 days, with Shmini Atzeres. But we really meant to have simcha with our lives as Jews. So this is very important. We want simcha. We want to have joy. We don't want the schok of the chsil. We don't want the laughter of a crazy person, of a person who's lost meaning in life. The Gemara says it's a stira. The Gemara says, we just read this morning, simcha maza oseh. What is simcha worth? Then it says elsewhere, simcha reisa meshubach. The Gemara in Shabbos says that they wanted to bury Sefer Kehelis, put it in Geniza, because it's stiras. Then they saw it starts with Torah, it ends with Torah, and they resolved the stiras. Besides, in Torah, there's no stiras. In Torah, what's changed is there's no contradiction. So they resolved it. When is it not praiseworthy? Simcha she'ein shel mitzvah, when it's not of a mitzvah. Simcha shel mitzvah is praiseworthy. So we want some sort of simcha. We want true simcha in our lives. We want true joy. Everybody wants joy. Victor Miller once pointed out, he says, in America, they have these like highway stretches where they're flat, and people at 3 o'clock in the morning, they race their cars. He says those kids are looking for joy, but they don't know what the real joy in the world is. They don't know what real simcha is. Everybody wants to be happy. The question is how. That's the first daf of the Mesilas Yesharim. Kadosh Baruch Hu created us to have joy with Him. But how do we do that in this world? So let's understand now the simcha. The simcha of Sukkot, I understand, there's 3 elements to it that we can understand. One, it's Chag HaAsif. Chag HaAsif is the time we're having a simcha by bringing in all the fruit and all our food. That's the whole reason why one of the reasons we take the Arba Minim is to show that we're taking all the bounty that the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us, and we're dedicating it towards Him. So the Zman HaAsif is the simcha of having plenty, of being prosperous. Related to that would also be the simchas Yom Tov that we have of eating and drinking. Now it's very interesting. Eating and drinking is a mitzvah. Ain't simcha lebasa b'yayin. You're supposed to eat basa, you're supposed to drink wine. People wash every day. It's a mitzvah to eat. So the Rabbeinu Bachai explains that eating, he compares it to the eating that Yitzchak Avinu wanted to have before he benched. He thought he was going to bench Esav, he ended up benching Yaakov, right? Before he blessed his children, he said, go out and get me Gedi, right? He told him to bring back some food, right? And then Esav went hunting, and then Yaakov came in ahead of him. Remember, that's the story. But what did he want the food for? Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu is the big, he wants to eat. He's got to eat. Teretz says the Rebbeinu Bachai, by eating and giving his goof a certain sense of satiation, that allows for a greater sense of a spiritual elevation. Now that his goof is sort of satisfied, now he can even draw a greater blessing down for his children. And by the way, I've been told that's the reason why many times whenever you have a simcha, you always eat. You serve somebody to eat, and then they give you a bracha. You gave him something to eat, feel good, can bench it. Now you can give somebody a blessing. It's an interesting concept. The goof needs to have a certain feeling of being regu, of being calm, being taken care of, and then a person's mind can then search and seek the spiritual end of whatever's being happening. So that's the simchas Yom Tov. By eating and drinking, we're having the simple simcha of being with our families, etc., and our friends. But it's more than that. That gives us the ability to appreciate the Rabbanan Shalom. Because now that our goof is satisfied, we can start to think about all the plenty He's given us and to direct our energies and our hearts and minds towards Him. So there's a physical simcha from eating and from appreciating the bounty. Then there's the second simcha. The second simcha is from Kapparas Avonos. It says like this. It says in the pasuk that the Baal Tshuva that we read in the 1.5 Torahs just recently, he wears Big Day Yesha. Big Day Yesha. One of the Kadmonim explains Yesha means Yud Shin Ayin. Yud means Yira Shamayim. Yira Shamayim is what brought him to the Tshuva in the first place, the Yira Shamayim. Shin is the Simcha, and then Ayin is the Anivus, is the humility that comes, that he realizes that all this ultimately comes from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he becomes that much more supplicated and close to him as a result. That's the Big Day Yesha of the Baal Tshuva. The Baal Tshuva wears Big Day Yesha. So one element is the Simcha. It's the simcha of kaparas avonos. There's no great. Or zarul atzadik uliyishrei leiv simcha. Or zarul atzadik uliyishrei, one who's miyasher his leiv, he gets a matzah of simcha. Having been able to do a little tshuva, having Hashem forgiven us, that itself is a sense of great joy. Releasing the spiritual lichluch and being able now to be clean in front of the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and close to Him. That gives a sense of simcha. And the third element is even higher. We notice that this is perhaps one of the greatest times of joy is the simchas beis shoeva, right? Shafta mayim b'sason, says the pasuk. You shall draw the water in joy. So Tosfos brings down, Tosfos says that the simchas of Shemisham shoavim ruach hakodesh she'ashchina shora b'toch simcha. In other words, there's a very interesting phenomenon in the simchas beis shoeva that the ones who danced were the gedolim, the tzaddikim. We find the tzaddikim gemurim, people with tzaddik their whole lives, bali tshuva, they became tzaddikim. And the Hamonam was watching. So, why is that? So you could say, well, maybe they're the ones that do the true tshuva, as we said before, but it's more than that. These are people who are shy to higher levels, that the Ruach HaKodesh, because of their simcha now, their simchas, they are now, the divine presence is resting upon them. That's the simchas beis shoeva, that's the simcha of drawing the water. If you want to understand in one moment, then I'm going to stop. Why should there be such a great simcha, the simchas beis shoeva? Pshat's like this. It says, the Medrash says like this. There's a deep thought. Simchas beis shoeva, pshat's like this. That when the Kodesh Baruch Hu says Shamayim, in the beginning, Yom Sheni, there was Shamayim, God separated, Hashem separated the Mayim Alyonim and the Mayim Atachtonim. The upper waters from the lower waters. The lower water, the high, means you got to understand this sort of the concept of water and Shemayim, and Hashem separated. Now, this world exists with water. We have water. Water is the whole basis for our life. And Hashem, and the world you have to picture as a kli, as a vessel, and Hashem puts the water, He forces the water down. That water is called Mayim Bochim, water that cries. Why? He wants to be next to its creator. Wants to go back up, wants to be back up next to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Why are you putting me down here for? So Hashem says, don't worry. I give you two nechamas. One, when you offer your karbonos, you'll have the salt on the mizbeach, which is really a combination of fire and water, and nisach hamayim. The nisach hamayim is when the water, which is being now used as water libations, it's being poured on the mizbeach. That water, as it were, is now returning in avodas Hashem back to its creator. That's when this world, in ultimate terms, reunites with the Rabbanu Shalom. And when that happens, that process brings the Shekhinah, that process brings Ruach HaKodesh, that process brings true Simcha. Halavai Be'ezer Hashem, we should all be zoichet to true life, to true liberty, and to true happiness.